Welcome back to the Balanced Babe podcast. Today, I'm super excited for you all to listen to Lauren Plante. She is a mindset and life coach, and I have had the pleasure of meeting her in person in Tampa many times. We met at a mastermind group a few months ago, and I have learned so much from her. And I was like, I need my audience to listen to your wisdom of how you've been able to overcome so many subconscious blocks and the way that you've been able to transform your life as a result of it. So please take it away. Give us some more information about what you do, and we'll go into how you got here.
Hi, Avery. Thank you so much for having me. And that was such a beautiful intro. I appreciate that so much. It's been such a blessing to have met you as well and even put our minds together because I know you do a lot of mindset work as well. So it's so fun to conversate with you on this. I am, yes, a mindset and life coach. I'd say this work found me. While I do love this work very much, it's very much my purpose and my passion. I specialize in helping individuals release blocks and move through limiting patterns. I have a 4-step framework on breaking patterns that we can definitely talk about. And this work is so important to me because patterns, they'll run our lives until we learn to break them and master our own minds. That is the important piece of it. And, 95% of our actions are subconscious.
Mm-hmm.
The rest is conscious. And it's like we have to learn to become more conscious, to understand these blocks, become aware of these blocks, and move through them. And the practices that you can use, they're life changing. And that's why this work is so great and so amazing.
Yeah, I love that. And you are a Reiki practitioner as well,
Hmm.
right?
Yes, certified coach and Reiki practitioner. A lot of my work that I put into these blocks and releasing the limiting patterns is energy work as well, because your energy system does run the show, right? We always say our energy introduces us before we even introduce ourselves. And so it's something that it's a communication system I think we forget about. And it's in those moments where we're like, I can't really pick up on it, but something's off, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether you're in a relationship or maybe it's just with friends or with family or even just with yourself, you're like, something's off. I don't know why I'm inconsistent. I don't know why I'm not motivated. I don't know why my energy system is sabotaging me. And a couple days I'm on, and the next day it sabotages me and I'm off and I'm tired and I can't pick myself back up and I fall off my routine or I stop eating healthy. I mean, I think we can all relate. We eat really well the entire week. And then the weekend comes and we just want to mess it all up, right? And
Yep.
it's our system and it's our subconscious mind that sabotages us and tries to keep us in this box. And that's what I talk about a lot is capacity. And I always just hold up my hands as if you only have this much space, right? And if you only have this much space, you're not going to be able to fit the things inside of it that you want until you expand your space and learn how to fit newness into your life, whether that be more money, more health, more success, more love, more joy, more pleasure,
Yeah.
right? And I always say, like, people say they want to be healthy, they want to be successful, but wanting something and being able to expand to receive that are two very different things. And your energy system has to expand with that as well. A lot more goes into it than we think.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's true. Like I feel like and this is where it ties into the nervous system because if you like everything is energy. So if we're not able to hold energy, then it's going to spill out into everything. It's like whenever I look around and I'm stressed out, my room is a mess. And it's like a direct correlation of that. And it's like, okay, I actually need to go inward first and
Mhm.
recenter myself. And I loved when Lauren, you hosted a Reiki sound healing event a few weeks ago that I got to join for,
Yeah.
and you taught us how to move through that stagnant energy and kind of pull that energy out of our body. And it's kind of wild when you think about it, but when you're actually doing the practice, you can feel yourself becoming lighter
Mhm.
and like moving through, and you might have emotions that start to come up. And I think it's so cool that you can teach someone how to do this on themselves. So can you talk a little bit more about that and maybe like how you discovered that as someone that we can correlate on this, where coming from this perfectionistic mindset, type A, just like really work hard, play hard, and then now being in this softer energy and able to manipulate that the way that you want to.
Yeah. So I'll start with the Reiki stuff and teaching others how to do it on themselves. I'm a full believer you are your own best healer,
Mm,
right? I am just a guide, just like you're just a guide
yeah.
to others in their health. And it's rather non-conventional because people other Reiki practitioners may not agree, or any other energy workers may not agree. Some may agree, but I don't believe that just because I'm certified in it doesn't mean I can't show you how to feel your own energy and release your own blocks. Half of it is the mindset. If you're not open to it mentally, you're not going to feel anything.
Yeah.
So it doesn't quite matter. But if you are open to the possibility that you can feel your own energy, you can move these blocks through your body, you can release them yourselves, you are going to feel the effects. I know when people do come to my workshops and their minds aren't open to it, they're like, I don't feel anything.
Mm,
And that's okay. But it does take time. But if you're not open to the experience, then we're made of three parts: your mind, your body, and your spirit. We need to open all three up if you want to heal.
yeah.
And so for me, allowing people to guide themselves through feeling their own energy system so they can take this home and do what's helped me so much. You talked about my journey and moving from my super masculine and like hyperactive addiction to chaos self to a more feminine, consistent, flowy version of myself. Part of it is through Reiki healing and releasing these blocks and laying in my bed and pulling these blocks out, shaking, screaming, crying. And that's what people do in these workshops too. It's real.
Yeah.
Sometimes I go into them, I'm like, is it going to work?
Yeah.
Right? Because you can't see it, you can't touch it. And you can feel it, but it's a feeling, and it's the same feeling you get when your friend is off, right? Or your partner's off, and you're looking at them and you're like, something's off, and I just don't know what it is. It's the same feeling that you feel, and it's your energy system where it's like you don't know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
You can't put a tangible label to it, but something's happening. And so we can't deny it. And I think it's something that's not talked about enough is your energy system. And so for me, when I started out working in human behavior, and then I was a neurological education specialist. So I was very much into mindset and behavior early on.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got into real estate because I wanted to make more money. I moved to New York City and I wanted to exercise the business side of myself because that's a very strong side of myself that I love. And I got a little lost in the sauce. I think anybody who's lived in a big city can relate to kind of having to visit this place of hyper speed and
Mm-hmm.
also hyper protection. When you get to a big city, it's like go, 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 but you also have to protect yourself. Everybody's kind of out for themselves. And I didn't really believe that at first. But once I got there, it was a slow shift. And I didn't realize that day after day, I was kind of starting to lose myself and change into this version of myself that I didn't recognize anymore. And my life quickly became working 24/7, working only solely for the money, and highly identifying my worth to making money and the status I've created in my career. If you were to have asked me, Lauren, like, who are you? I would have said I'm a real estate agent and that's it. I don't know anything else. What do you mean, who am I? Lauren, the real estate agent,
Yeah.
right? And COVID taught me that because when COVID happened, it slapped me in the face and it was like, who are you without work? And I really didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
And through that process, I was getting really sick. I was in New York and I had this unexplained back pain. The doctors could not figure it out. There were days at a time I couldn't get out of bed.
Wow.
And yes, they were giving me lidocaine shots. And I'm a very natural person. I don't want lidocaine shots, but I had no other choice. And I could just get myself to go to the doctor, give the lidocaine shots. I'd be moving for another 3 days, but then I'd be down for the count again.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't know what to do. And that was when, I was losing my soul, and my body was like, please slow down and come
Mm-hmm.
back home. And so I was like, something needs to change because I'm just not happy. I need help and I just don't know where to turn. And then God brought an answer into my life, and I met a Reiki practitioner. She brought me into the room, and I was like, I don't know what's going to happen. I had no idea what energy work was. I had no clue what's going on. And she performed the Reiki on me, and had some flashbacks come up. I had some movement. I felt the energy move through my body, and it wasn't until the end where she wiped my energy clean and she was like, "All right, all set. Like, how you feeling?" And I just started bawling my eyes out. And it just fell out of my mouth. I said, "All I want is love." And I realized that I had no love in my life. I was in a toxic relationship. I was in a career that was just I liked, but I was fully identifying with it. I was attaching so much of my system and my worth to,
Yeah.
and it wasn't taking care of my health as I should have been, or my mental health, emotional health. And that was probably the first time I had remembered crying like for myself, and I can't even remember how long. And that was when I realized like I wanted to find love in myself. And after that, my back started feeling better and my body started feeling better. And I was
Wow.
like, I need to take care of myself. So that's when I decided I'm going to work one more year in real estate. I'm going to stash my money away and I'm going to go find my soul and figure out what to do next. I had no idea what I was going to do. It's the scariest thing of my life, but I took 6 months off, um, filled up my savings account, and that's exactly what I did. I spent 12 hours alone in the mountains of Hawaii, hiking, finding my soul. And I did. I found it. And that's how I became a coach, because I can tell you that purpose just dropped into my life. First of all, it's a sandwich between my last two careers,
Yeah.
and nothing's felt more right. So if you have the opportunity to live out your purpose, I tell you, it is the best feeling you've ever felt once you can open yourself up to finding it.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Mhm.
you clearly like you felt out of alignment for a while, and I can relate to this too. I used to work in finance and I felt like, I was so focused on how can I fix all my health issues, da 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 da, but I wasn't actually looking at the other factors of my life, my relationships, the work that I was doing every day. I felt was just a means to an end to get money. And I
Mhm.
think we don't realize until it's after the fact how much that affects our mental health and
Mhm.
our cortisol and our soul's calling of to like other things that God, universe, source, whatever you believe, is calling on you
Mhm.
to do. And so, what were some of the signs that you noticed, like before you found this Reiki practitioner? Were you feeling like numb or just anxious, or can you
Mhm.
talk through some of that?
Yeah, that was some of the stuff that came up, is like I would try to listen to music, but it's just I didn't want to listen to anything because I was just numb. I didn't feel any of it.
Yeah.
I definitely started feeling just like every time I was walking into my real estate office, just anxiety that I had never felt before. Like it was a merge between, it was an end of a chapter for me and it was time to move on to something else, and also I had just like driven myself into the ground through burnout. I was burning out like every 2 weeks, and it the biggest transition out of this situation was transitioning from chaos to peace. I
Hmm.
had an extreme addiction to chaos. I was living in who I mean, I don't want to talk bad about it, but like who lives in the busiest city by choice if you don't want a constant distraction? In my opinion, because I did it and I'm like, why did I do that? And it's because I could not sit still. I was constantly trying to distract myself from the very thing that I needed to do the entire time, which was find the love within myself. But on the journey towards finding the love within myself was healing past wounds, was slowing down,
Yeah.
was sitting with myself in stillness. And that was another thing. I picked up one of Deepak Chopra's books and I started reading about how to meditate. That was another thing. When I started meditating, everything downloaded and was like, you are not meant to be here. I started having crazy dreams And then I looked up those dreams, and those dreams were like, get out of your current situation. So I was just receiving signs from left and right that I was like, I can't deny it. And I kept asking God for a sign, and he just kept giving it to me. And I'm like, yeah, but one more.
Yeah.
Because like it was hard to strip myself of an identity that I once had so deeply identified with. It's almost like when a pro sports player ends their career, like it's you have a hard time stripping yourself from that identity. Like
Yeah.
you even see like people who played sports in college, they still talk about it to this day, and they're in their 30s and 40s, and we're
Yeah.
like, we're past that, right? And
Yep.
like it was that same thing for me. It was really, really hard to let it go. And everybody's like, it was crazy because everybody's like, you're crazy for going into real estate. And then they started seeing me make money, and they're like, oh, how'd you do that? And then when I was ready to leave, they're like, you're crazy for leaving real estate. I'm
Yep.
like, pick one. Right. And I love this girl. I think her name's Jamie. She created It Cosmetics, and she says, you're not crazy, you're just first. And I was the first person to do all of this, but it made me feel pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so going back to it, like the biggest transition was, and we could talk about this because Florida, now that I live in Florida, is a very peaceful place. But I had to learn, my nervous system had to learn how to be here
Yeah.
post living in a big city, crazy go, go, go. Like that was the beginning of my journey from chaos to peace.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think like we're going to dive into that too more with addiction to chaos. But it's funny because I didn't realize it, but I moved to San Diego the end of 2021, and I lived there for a year. And I loved it, but I felt like it was so slow and the people weren't as ambitious. And,
Mhm.
like it was not what I expected. And I realized, and I still love it, I go back all the time, but I realized that the reason I felt this like dissonance with it is because it is so peaceful, and my body was so dysregulated when I lived there that the contrast was like very uncomfortable for me. And
Mhm.
so it was hard to be in that stillness and be okay and like not feel as productive and not like, just I wasn't letting myself rest. And
Mhm.
that is correlated with all my symptoms, and my health was honestly the worst it had ever been when I lived there.
Mhm.
And it kind of like everything came to a head. And then of course I left and I went traveling to very peaceful places in Guatemala and Colombia, where they don't even know what time is and everyone's late and like you order food and you're getting it an hour later. And so
Yeah.
you really have to learn how to just be like, all right, F it, like whatever, just go with the flow. And then
Mhm.
bringing back in your masculine structure and working on creating those consistent habits that are going to help you maintain your health and like your mental health, your physical health, and build, you have to make money in some way, so build a career,
Mhm.
and also connect that with your purpose and your passion. So how can you share more about that transition for you and how you healed your addiction to chaos? And maybe like let's
Mhm.
just start with like what that looks like signs of addiction to chaos.
So I will give you some signs, and then I'll talk about my story because I didn't have all of the signs, but I see it. I work with it a lot with my clients. And addiction to chaos is chasing the high highs and the low lows. So if you're somebody who seeks out subconsciously, there's a very subconscious, you can sit here and be like, I don't seek that out. But then you look at your life and you're like, I tend to attract toxic relationships.
Hmm.
Why? Right? You got to ask yourself why. And when also certain you like to have certain areas of your life a little messy, right? Maybe you like to keep your bedroom messy or your closet messy or your car.
Car.
Some yeah, some people like the car, and that's because you like a little bit of that chaos. Another thing is inconsistency. So if you find yourself on this pattern of inconsistency, you are chasing the high highs and then you crash and burn. And then you chase the high highs again and then you crash and burn. So you might have like 3 days on and then 1 day off. And you're like, why is my energy not consistent?
Hmm.
And so these are all different ways, but really it's mostly just like chasing those high highs and the low lows. And there is a way to ride the waves versus just like going into the trenches, because that is what will affect our morale, our motivation, and it will also affect, I mean, you can learn to work with it, especially while you're healing it,
Yeah.
but it just affects are like some of the biggest fears is like being disappointed, and you constantly keep yourself in that loop as being disappointed because every couple of days you're sabotaging yourself through this
Yeah.
inconsistency, right? Procrastination's another one. And these are all things that hinder our success, not just in our careers, but in our health journey, in our relationship journey. Like there are a couple pillars to life and they will all be affected. How you do one thing is how you do everything. It bleeds into everything.
Yes.
And so for me, I was in a career that demanded 24 hours of attention to me. And also, I never knew if the deal was going to close or not.
Yeah.
I could have $10,000, $20,000 on the line, and I'd be sitting there like shaking in my boots, and it could fall through, right? I could have documents on the table ready to sign, and I'm like ready to receive tens of thousands of dollars, and then it falls through. And then you got 3 clients that are ready to close, and then all of a sudden they don't. Or then one day 5 do. And
Yeah.
so it was a constant high and low and high and low. And for people who are in careers like that, like you can learn to manage it. But because I was so attached to my career, I was literally riding with it.
Mm.
And I was also in a toxic relationship. And I think my health at that time was the only thing I had in check. That was the only thing I had going for me. But even then, I was vegan, which I don't agree that vegan is a healthy diet, at least for myself. I will
Mm.
only speak for myself. However, I needed a cleansing from my body from like I think all the stress in my body was causing me to just like not be able to hold foods correctly.
Mm.
And there was a lot going on. So I was like, I just need to go vegan. I need to cleanse my body. So I did that for a few years. But that was the only thing that felt good at the time besides that back pain. Um, and so I was also living in a city that was just like high anxiety. The second you walk out the door, there's people screaming at you and there's people laying on the side of the street, right? There's just like everything's going on. Everything's just high intensity. And then you finally sit inside and you're like, whew, I can relax. So you can imagine like I'm either in the high energies or I'm in the low. And I didn't really know how to sit in the in between.
Mm-hmm.
So when I moved over to Florida, I was still carrying those patterns. Was getting ready to start my business, and I had also taken a pendulum swing. So I was running my business, but I also was like, meh, I'm kind of burnt out.
Yeah.
I kind of want to chill. And that's when I kind of sunk a little bit too far into my feminine energy. And when I did get going, and when I was moving and grooving in the work I was doing, it was like a couple of days on, and then I'd flop. And then I'm like, okay, got the motivation again, let's go. And then I'd flop.
Mm.
And I'm like, my mind is keeping me in this loop. It's keeping me in this loop. And then I did end up getting into another relationship that was another love bombing situation. And I was finally done. I'm like, I need to come back to center. I need to come back to this pattern, like to a healthier pattern.
Yeah.
This has everything to do with your belief system and what you believe to be possible. And I'll tell you, addiction to chaos is usually bred from a chaotic environment, growing up in a chaotic environment. My household was rather chaotic. Sometimes it was safe, sometimes it wasn't, but I always had to be on guard and looking for threat. So a lot of things happened when I was detoxing from chaos. And that was also coming off of survival mode. It's kind of strange to live to survive and then all of a sudden you're safe and you just get to live. So my body didn't really know what to do with it, kind of like what you were probably experiencing when you were in San Diego. You're like, what do I do with all this
It was
peace,
like
massaging?
boring and it was like
Hmm.
kind of depressing because I was like,
Yes.
what?
Yeah.
There's no like dopamine hit.
Yes, because we don't know how to feel the true joy and pleasure that life brings with just calmness,
Yeah.
but also life isn't going to be calm all the time. That's not normal, but we should also learn to be able to move through the chaos when it does come about and not get so attached to it and so
Yeah.
like hooked on it as if it's like a drug. It's like, oh my gosh, the chaos. Because sometimes I'm like, I just want to mess it up just for fun, right? And it's like, no, Lauren, don't do that,
Yeah.
because that's what my thermostat was set to. So if you can think of it like that's where my comfort zone was. And you've got to ask yourself, like, what is your current capacity? And I truly didn't know what pleasure and joy really was. I didn't know how to have that. And
Mm.
if I did have it, because I was used to, as a kid, the rug being pulled out from under me, I didn't want to have it too long. So I would sabotage it. So to my fellow self-sabotagers, I've moved through this quite a bit. I'm a recovering self-sabotager. But for other people who self-sabotage, it's just because your space isn't big enough to have and hold good things. That's it. You just don't know how to have them. And it is a receiving thing. All you know how to have is chaos. All you know how to have is suffering, is difficulty, victimhood. I had a client, which I think you could probably relate to this. Her entire family was sick, and so was she. Her mind did not see it as an option to be healthy. She
Mm.
said she wanted to be healthy, but she didn't know a life without being unhealthy. So she didn't actually want to leave her comfort zone.
Yeah.
That takes work, that takes expansion, and that takes energy. Like, you have to work mentally and energetically pretty hard to expand your mind to a new possibility that's available to you. Wait, you mean
Yes.
my body can be comfortable? You mean that I can have normal movements and normal feelings in my body and I could feel safe in my body? I could feel happiness and joy in my day to day?
Mm.
And until you believe that these feelings and these things are possible for you, right? If you've never been in a healthy, loving relationship, your mind's going to be like, is that for me?
Yeah.
Right? And we can see other people doing it. We can see other people making millions of dollars. But in our deep subconscious mind, we believe it's not for us. And it's not that opportunity is not available for us. So it is moving through a process, and I move through a 4-step framework with my clients. Is the first step is healing. You have to move through the healing, and people really try to bypass that part. I'm telling you, they'll try anything. They'll
Yeah.
try anything not to heal. And I'm like, what are we going to do without the foundation to the house? It's going to fall down every time.
Yeah.
Versus if we have the foundation set, we can always rebuild and remodel, right? So you have to do the healing work. What does that look like? Inner child work, somatics work. Sometimes it's just a verbal purge or even just writing it down, but it usually involves seeking support with somebody else, because when there's somebody else there to support you, it's an entirely different experience, because it recreates a new scenario for you versus the old.
Mm.
The old that we're probably dealing with is when caregivers or people in your past didn't know how to handle your emotions, and now to get support, somebody does know how to handle your emotions and support your emotions. So that's already stretching your mind and opening up new pathways for your mind into a new world and a new reality, but it's very, very healing.
Mm.
The next step is the mindset work. This is when we make things make new meaning. Rejection is no longer a hit to your self-worth. Rejection is now direction,
Mm.
right? Things like that. And we've got to learn to rewire. Just because somebody leaves, it doesn't mean they're leaving you and it's abandonment towards you because you're the worst. It means they're leaving because they either don't have the capacity to stay or they're leaving because it's just not meant for you. And it comes down to changing the mindset of what you make something mean. Then the next step is, how do we send our brain a new message and make this really land? Behavior and habit changes. Every single thing you do sends your brain a message. Every time you people please, it sends your brain a message that your needs are not important. The other person's needs are more important. What does that affect? Your self confidence, your self love, your self worth. So you wonder why you don't feel confident. It's because you're doing things like people pleasing, or you're not doing the things you say you're going to do. If you say you're not going to eat the cookies, or if you say you're not going to eat the gluten or whatever it is that's affecting your body in a negative way, and you do it anyway, you're saying, I don't care about my body.
Mm.
That's, I don't care what you're actually saying. That's what your behavior is sending the message to your brain, and your soul and your body is not liking you for it. And you have to do the things you say you're going to do. So my biggest advice in this stage of the 4-step process is when you are making changes, take it slow. If you cannot promise that you're going to go to the gym tomorrow, only promise yourself that you put your shoes on. Don't actually show up. That's fine. But like, just focus on rebuilding the ability to do what you say you're going to do. It's a huge one
Yeah.
because you need to learn to trust yourself again. And again, that feeds into your self love. And I'll tell you, you will show up more confidently when you do that. The last step is receiving. And we talked a bit about this, how you only have so much space. This is when you actually expand. So once you've gone through those 3 steps, this new outcome is going to present itself into your life, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it be like your body's starting to feel better and you have the opportunity to maintain this healthy lifestyle. Or it's a new successful career, a new opportunity, more money, or it's a new healthy, loving partner. Do you let yourself have it? Have you done the work now to the point? And this is where people will self sabotage. This is where people will try to talk themselves out of it. So it is a matter of you allowing yourself to have it because that's really it. It's like you just have to let yourself have the good things in life. You have
Yeah.
to let yourself be healthy. You have to be open to the possibility and the opportunity instead of wanting to be a victim, instead of wanting to fall into all of these old patterns that maybe you saw your parents do. My mom was a victim. I
Mhm.
learned that it's preconditioning. So now I'm just wired to be a victim, right? And how is that serving you? People feel bad for you and people make special accommodations for you. It makes you feel good, right? But there's other ways that can make you feel good. And so you got to ask yourself why you wouldn't want to receive it. And once you can finally stamp that, you've broken a pattern and you've expanded to a new level. And then, of course, as humans, we'll just continue to evolve because nature demands that we constantly evolve because nature's constantly evolving. We have
Yeah.
to follow suit. And so it's not about complaining like, oh, it's always the next thing. It's just about learning to appreciate the journey of the constant expansion and evolution that we are so lucky to be able to experience here on this earth.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I was like mesmerized. I'm like, yes, that makes so much sense. And I was correlating it with how I teach with my like 3-step method. And the first is about rewiring. So rewiring the mindset and shifting from that victim mindset to like a healing one. And like you said, it's like if you believe that you can't heal, if you have a diagnosis and your doctor told you that you can't ever feel better, or you need to take this prescription in order to get better, that's a block there. And like
Mhm.
we place so much power on people outside of ourselves, on our parents, on our doctors, on our friends that have shitty habits. And so we have to take the power back and be like, listen, I'm actually capable of healing this.
Mhm.
And it's about, like you said, becoming aware of like where your past habits are coming in, where your beliefs are currently at, and not being a victim anymore. Because even like myself, there's times when I'm like, I get overwhelmed and I'm like, oh, I want to see more progress. I'm like not as patient or whatever. And then I'm like, wait, am I actually being a victim right now? Like,
Mhm.
what should I actually just be focusing on taking action and being kinder to myself? And how can I like reel that back in and go back to these practices that I've cultivated over the years that have, helped me ground myself and back into like my
Mhm.
truth.
Yeah.
So I love that. And so I want to ask you, like, if someone's like, oh, I just feel like I'm stuck in this pattern and I know I'm addicted to chaos and I don't know how to break out of it, but I want to be better and I want to heal. Like, where would you tell them to start?
So I'm going to say the same thing I always say, and I'm sure people have heard this before, is you have to get support.
Mm,
You have to stop keeping yourself, and it's a pattern alone to try to do everything by yourself
yeah.
because there's only so much you can do by yourself. you have to get support. And getting support forces you to be vulnerable. It pushes you into a position of accountability where like you're going to heal. So you say you want to heal. And also a lot of people are like, oh, the investment. One, there are a lot of free resources that you can start with.
Yeah.
Two, money is a very, I work a lot on money blocks,
Yeah.
and it is very important that your money flows to the places of importance to you. Because just like your behaviors send your brain a message, your actions, where you put your money, where you put your time, where you put your energy, sends the universe a message. So if you want to, and you say you really want to heal your health, you invest into your health because money is a very strong energy. Whatever
Mhm.
you put money towards, the universe listens to. And it's like, we're going to give you more of that because there's energy backed behind it. There's a very different experience that I have with clients who pay more money. That's why I just raised my prices again for my one-on-one clients, because there's more energy backed behind it. They take it more seriously and we get even more results and even more change. Every time I raise my prices, the changes get more and more dramatic and incredible because it's the investment, it's the energy behind it. So I
Yeah.
want to speak to that part because ener- people complain like, oh, I spend so much money on this or that or that or this, and it's like money is a necessary resource, and
Mhm.
it's supposed to flow, and it's supposed to flow in the place into the places of importance for you. So definitely, if I can shift anybody's mindset towards wanting to invest the money, if you're going to spend money, spend it on things of importance to you, your health, your success, your relationships, whatever, wherever it is you're struggling, because it'll be very good for your system.
Yeah.
It'll be very good for your energy alone. So get support, get help, invest in yourself, and act like you're worth it. Act like you're worth the change. And sometimes we walk around like we are not worthy of being healthy. We eat as if we mean nothing to ourselves. We don't be active as if we don't want to be on this planet another day. It's like we've got to really look at our behaviors and ask ourselves like, why do I treat myself with this like this? And if you're in a place where you're getting ready to invest, and there's one piece of advice I can give, is to just start being honest with yourself. Little things. Do what you say you're going to do, because that's the very behavior that increases your self trust, self love, and self confidence. Those three things together are going to push you in the right direction. So practice that. Practice just putting your shoes on. Practice just taking 3 sips of water. I'm going to take 3 sips of water today.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, when your mind correlates the fact that you did exactly what you said you were going to do, I got to put it like this, because imagine you were in a relationship with a partner that they kept telling you like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to do the laundry." And they don't do the laundry. Or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that, or do you trust them anymore? Do you even
Mhm.
like them anymore? Right? Like after you tell me so many times you're going to do something and you don't, like I don't really like you.
Yeah.
I don't respect you. I don't trust you. And it's the same thing. You've got to look at yourself as if you're two people. And it's the same thing with like being seen. Like if you were with a partner and every time they're like, yeah, I'm going to go out with my friends. And you're like, well, can I come? And they're like, not really. Right. And they don't bring you out of the house with them. What do you do with yourself? Right. Like, how do you treat yourself? Do you pull yourself out of the house and go be seen and be around people and all of this? Like, it's just, that's the thing I got to start with, is like the relationship with yourself and building that love and trust with yourself. And you do that through your actions.
Yeah. And that's what it's all about. Like you said, setting realistic goals.
Mhm.
And I think sometimes too, like when you are a recovering perfectionist and you have this like overachieving personality,
Mhm.
it's very, and I'm talking to myself, it's very, very easy to set um hard goals, and to the point where it's like then that becomes stressful. And it's like the greatest example that I do all the time, which I'm working on, is like writing a to-do list and saying I need to get all these things done today. And
Mhm.
then I actually, if I break it down, I only have time for 3 of the 20 things. And I'm like, why did I set myself up for failure? So it's like
Mhm.
learning to set yourself up for success, giving yourself that extra like 2 hours a week to sit down, go through your week, what you would like to get done, what are your non-negotiables, and then also like you said, setting realistic goals. So if you are going to start going to the gym again, start with like once or twice a week for 3 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
and then hit those goals, and then add on to it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's super powerful, and I loved that analogy with the partner, and like because it's so true. It's like other people are a reflection of us too. So it's like if your partner's not doing that and you're accepting that, then that's another story. So
Right.
yeah.
Right. You're going to attract that same energy and you're wondering, why do I always attract these type of partners that aren't consistent and don't do what they say they're going to do? It's like, do you?
Mm-hmm.
And it is the small little sneaky subconscious ways that we just forget to pay attention to. And that's why I think it's so important you get the support, because somebody can help you see you. And it's the best gift you can ever, it's worth more than money. Trust me. Like
Yeah.
that's how I got started into my healing, is like I spent money and I got support and I got the help. And there's another there's another world on the other side of your current lens. And just because you don't know it's possible doesn't mean it's not there. And all you have to do is dig a little deeper into your imagination and start to imagine that there is something over there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. And like visualizing the reality that you desire before it's here. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's the biggest thing, is being able to embody that energy. So
Mhm.
I
And
love
seek
that
it
so
out
much.
into the world. Seek it out in the world. Like get around other, if you're working on your health journey, get around other people who are healthy and ask them, how did you become healthy? I had a girl come up to me. I was walking on the path outside. She's like, I know this is weird, but like, how did you get the body that you have now? And so I walked with her and I told her my story, because she's
Love
like, I'm really working on my health. And I'm like, because you asked me this, you're going to achieve it, because she's actually seeking out answers and wanting to get around him. Because we normally, just to validate ourselves, will keep ourselves in a group of unhealthy people,
yeah.
not successful people. So you feel like you belong or you feel like you're the best person in the room. It feeds your ego. The
Mm-hmm.
second you take yourself out of there and you bring yourself into a room of healthy people, successful people, and it gets a little uncomfortable because you haven't achieved what they have achieved yet. But if you can put your ego aside, you can actually learn from those people and you will become that. But it is leaving your ego at the door a lot of times and just putting yourselves in those situations. It's hard, but you're not doing yourself a service by trying to constantly validate yourself and feeding your ego by keeping yourself small.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. That's why I have like a seven foundational habits that I teach, and the seventh one is health conscious community, because
Yes, I
you would
love that.
I would not be where I am without having other friends that aren't partying every weekend and
Mhm.
have these big visions and goals and are trying to create something amazing. And you have to have community if you want to heal, and not just for the health conscious thing of having people to go do workouts with and stuff. It's like having people that have this abundance mindset, and then also just like the physical chemical thing of being around humans and not isolating yourself, especially when you're working on your health. I did this myself. I would stay in every single weekend researching, like listening to hours of podcasts, taking tons of notes, like in my little rabbit hole bubble. And
Mhm.
I stressed myself out so much. I made my healing so much more prolonged than it had to be, when I could have gone out with friends and had a great time and maybe ate some seed oils, but like my stress levels would have been way lower.
Mhm.
So it's about finding that balance too, and it looks different for everyone. And there might be a period that you do need to be a little bit more isolated so that you can get clear on your boundaries and create that relationship, with yourself.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, it's a different path for everyone, but you just have to start, like ask the
Yeah.
questions. I'm sure you love it too when people come to you and ask you questions
Yeah.
and they're really wanting to learn, but then the other piece of that is taking action, and like,
Yeah.
okay, I have the tools, like there's a reason that these people are in my life now. I actually need to take the next step, and that's the
Mhm.
scariest part, right?
Yeah.
So
Humans
yeah.
are meant to help one another. That's the point of each of our journeys, is like we learn and we cultivate knowledge from our journeys so we can pay it forward and pass it down and help the next generation continue to evolve. Like that is our duty here on this earth. And
Hmm.
that's where purpose has is come from. And, for me, like health was the very first thing I worked on. I used to, I'd say binge eat. I wasn't eating enough for a while. I would fluctuate in weight. And I was that person who, like, I would eat really well to my standards all week. And then I would just like go into the cake and the sweets
Yep.
all weekend and the sugar. And I would,
Crazy.
and I would feel like absolute crap. And it's
Yep.
just like, I just want everyone to know, like, you do find a new lifestyle. Like, I will say, like, there are some things that come up in my body, but like, and now if I get sick a little bit, I like freak out because I used to get sick so much. I used to get sick like every single month and just never feel good and always felt bloated. And I can tell you now, like, I don't get bloated. Like,
Yeah.
I am comfortable in my body. I love my body, but it
Mm.
wasn't like that. I was constantly not happy with it. If I was gaining weight because I wanted a bigger butt, then I was too thick. And then
Yep.
when I was too thick, I wanted to be skinnier, and then I was too skinny. And then it depended what somebody else said to me. A boy would say like, "Oh, if you just had a bigger butt or something." Then I want to get thick again, right? And so it's just like I was never happy. And so you learn through these practices, through the things that you teach, through my 4-step framework, whoever and whatever resonates with you, you learn to heal and you learn to love your body and you learn to come to a place that's good for you. Like, I can tell you, I find a new puzzle piece for my life. This, I call it the puzzle of life. And when the puzzle fits perfectly, man, it just feels so good. And
Mm.
so you just keep finding those puzzles along the way and creating this masterpiece. But if the puzzle doesn't fit, the puzzle piece doesn't fit, throw it away.
Yep.
Go find the puzzle piece that fits. And it's possible. I thought certain things in my life weren't possible. I didn't think it was possible to be successful and happy. I didn't think it was possible to be comfortable in my body and never get sick. And I've achieved that. And so now my mind is like, oh, what else is out there for me? I've created this abundance mentality where, like, I ask for things and I get them almost immediately, but only because I believe I can. And when I can't vision it, or I can't see it, or I can't receive it, or it's not popping up as an opportunity, I know there's a block there. So I go inside and I say, what's going on in my body that's blocking me? Oh, I don't want to because being in a relationship is scary. I could end up hurt.
Mm.
And so then I have to deal with that part and talk to that part. Maybe it's a little inner child part for me, right? And just go inside of yourself and ask yourself, why wouldn't you want to imagine the future and the possibilities? Oh, because I tried everything and I just don't want to be disappointed again. Well, let's talk to the fear of disappointment because you're already disappointing yourself by not doing anything,
Yeah.
right? So it's just little things like that. And when you have someone to support you through that, I'm telling you, it just makes it so much easier and so much better.
Yeah. It's just like a relief, like
Yeah.
that. Really, I'm sure when your clients sign, they just are like, oh, I already feel better and we haven't even started.
The changes already happen.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, the second they invest the money, changes, things happen because they already set an intention that they sent that message to the universe. Like, I want changes in this area of my life. So the universe is like, say less, I got you.
Yep.
I
Yep.
got you. And it shows up every time. And I kid you not. As long as you don't block the flow. What blocks the flow? Fear, worry, self-doubt. So if you go ahead and you invest in an opportunity and you sit there like, I shouldn't have done that, I hate myself for that, you're going to block the flow. So don't expect any changes.
Yeah.
But if you invest and you say, I'm going to have faith, I'm going to move forward with full faith and excitement and joy as best I can. And when the negative thoughts come up, I'll watch them pass by like a cloud.
Yeah.
That's when the changes happen because you lift the veil. But fear, worry, self-doubt blocks the flow to money, success, any energies,
Mm.
healing, health, wealth, happiness, you name it. I could
Yeah.
go on, but it just blocks your flow. It completely blocks you up. And then you get tired and you're like, why am I tired? Why am I not motivated? These are the reasons why.
Yep. Yeah.
Mm.
That's like when you're doing all the health things and you still don't feel right. It's like your body knows when something's off. But
Mm.
I love it. And I love what you've built and the way that you show up for your clients. You guys should go check out her Instagram because she shows like how she works with clients on calls and it's so cool to watch. But anyways, thank you so much for today. We could keep talking. forever. I'm sure we could do a whole nother episode about money and relationships and all the things. But please tell everyone where they can find you and what's going on right now in your world.
Yes. So if you want to join my little orbit, definitely check out my Instagram. That's where everything's at lawplant, at ALUPLANTE. That's where you can find links to my free masterclasses. You can find links to my free webinars that I host. See if you resonate with the stuff that I put on there. And also, I'm offering two programs right now. One is a mastermind, which is where we work on high end accountability, motivation, and confidence. And that's in a group. And I also have my one on one, which is where we do like deep dive healing and whatnot. But either way, hopefully my content is just impactful at the very least, too. I think that just checking that out would be really great.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I will put everything in the show notes so they can find you easily. And I'm sure they can reach out to you through Instagram. Is that the best way?
Yes, through
Okay,
Instagram's best.
perfect. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And I am excited for everyone to hear this.